Isn't that like kind of insane? Because now it would be worth so much more. This is, like I said, very savvy financial guy and just didn't want to hold on to the Bitcoin. It was kind of a shocker to us. He first wasn't sure he wanted to go through with it, but that's what he did.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. If you're new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart, Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, proud multi-coiner, Bitcoin smash buyer. Head to YouTube, smash the subscribe button on the Sat Chats channel, just like I smash by Bitcoin. When we get to 1,000 subscribers, we're going to open up a live show Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you are one of the first 1,000 subs, you'll be automatically entered to win 1 million sat.
And we are on the road to number 99. Kristen, my wife, the end boss. So Lynn has come on the show today to help me train like Rocky IV, getting ready for the bout against Ivan Drago. She's got some Bitcoin, so we're going to be hearing her Bitcoin story today. But before we do, Lynn, help our Satillionaires get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. This is going to be an interesting conversation, I can tell. I'm a longtime advertising exec, lived in New York City for 25 years, although I'm originally from Chicago, and left in 2018, and I'm now a beauty entrepreneur. So I have a hair care brand, which I think both of you could use. It's gender neutral. Guys love it. And then I also launched a candle business in 2020, but that one is sort of waiting for me to re-engage. And then I launched Conscious Beauty Collective in 2022. It's a group of about 65 indie beauty and wellness brands. We do a lot of retail activation and co-marketing.
So, Lynn, what was it like before you bought Bitcoin?
I would say there are certain moments in your life where you kind of reevaluate your financial setup. And for me, it was leaving my corporate job. And kind of, it's very liberating in a lot of ways. You don't feel so constrained by any of the rules anymore. And you feel a little bit more open to trying different things because that's what you're doing as an entrepreneur. So I think for me, it was really about diversification because we've had stocks for a very long time. We're big fans of the Roth IRA, which is probably some of the easiest way to grow your retirement savings out there. We're hammering our children to 24 and 21. They have the Roth IRAs. They fund them every year. But anyway, so Bitcoin for me was another form of just diversifying my portfolio. And I think, yes, there's risk in everything, but at the same time, the reward and the upside is tremendous. So that's one of the few places where I think you can potentially look for, a really great return, or at least at the time. We've had it for 5-6 years.
Has your perception of risk with pertaining to Bitcoin changed over time?
I mean, I think at the time, if I'm remembering back, it was definitely a riskier proposition 6 years ago, perceptually. And I think people now are a bit more, there's so many other cyber currencies that it's like you just get more acclimated and more used to it. I think when it becomes a currency that people can use to, buy groceries, then it's going to be obviously like a no-brainer because people won't have any kind of issues. But it is interesting because we do have friends who are very educated and savvy about finances and do a lot of stuff, and they won't touch it. And in fact, my husband had done a deal with one of our friends who's an artist and basically said, look, I'm going to pay you in Bitcoin. And if it goes down, I'll pay you the difference. And if it goes up, great. You've made, that way he's mitigating the risk. And if you want to, in a year or two, if you're uncomfortable and want to trade it back for cash, we'll trade it back for cash. And that's what he did. He didn't want to hold on to the Bitcoin.
Wow.
Isn't that
Oof.
like kind of insane? Because now it would be worth so much more. And but then this is, like I said, very savvy financial guy, and just didn't want to, I don't know, just didn't think it was.
It's like, do you want to get paid for your artwork in a money that's buying less and less all the time? Right. Or do you want to take payment for your art in a form of money that's buying more and more over time? It's like, man, come on, man, get your head in the game. You could sell a piece of artwork for $50,000, and a year from now, actually, you sold it for $100,000. And 10 years from now, actually, you sold that painting for $1 million. It's like the most magical, amazing money on earth. How could you possibly not take it in exchange for your artwork?
I just, it was kind of a shocker to us that he first wasn't sure he wanted to go through with it, with the deal to begin with the whole, we'll give you Bitcoin. And then when we're like, well, we'll mitigate the risk, and then we'll give you the option to get out, but never thinking he would go through with that. That's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think that is the mindset of a lot of people still. You guys talk this all the time, right? So although the people you're talking to are probably more in it, you're not necessarily talking to skeptics, but there are still a lot of people who think it's like monopoly money.
Well, and our show, Lynn, is for beginners. Ideally, people who have not stacked their first sats. And we've spoken to 56 guests before you. So you're number 57, Lynn. And like the top 3 problems that we've come across is it real money? So then there's like another one that's like, well, it's real, but it's an asset and it's too volatile for me. And then there's another one that's like, well, maybe it is money, maybe it is an asset, but I can't buy my groceries with it. So it's literally like, is it real money? It's too volatile. I can't buy my groceries with it. And so we work with people every day on those things.
Well, I would say, okay, when we first dabbled in this, however many years ago, it was still, the questions were more in the first, is this even a real thing? And then, I think you have to figure out your risk appetite with anything, whether it's any stock, by the way. We've been big Tesla shareholders for years, and look what's going on there, right? So and I still think Tesla is still one of the best stocks out there. So, all the Tesla haters can hate, but he's still dominating the industry, but that's a different thing. But anyway, my point is there's volatility everywhere, even in some companies that you think are incredibly well run. Shit happens, now we have tariffs, and now Apple is suddenly like, oh my God, now I think they've been granted a reprieve, but it does, what if they weren't? That stock could turn upside down too. So I think of Bitcoin in a similar way, although in some regards it's more stable these days, it feels like, than all these other things I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I can appreciate you helping our satillionaires understand that there is risk in everything, up to and including Bitcoin. And so maybe it goes up, maybe it goes down, maybe you diversify into your portfolio with it. And I'm okay to start there, and I'm okay to have that conversation and help our satillionaires understand that, okay, there's risk. Are you willing to accept the risk? But where we're ultimately going, Lynn, is to a place where we can understand that Bitcoin has no risk. I mean, from where I'm sitting as a maxi with sunglasses on, there's no risk. And in fact, the only risk is not having it, because you are subject to the whims of your nation state's currency and monetary policy, to their dadgum political, global, international policies. I mean, just some absolutely random Roberts out there on the street can decide to wield power in a way that affects the economy. And it's absolutely busted. So Bitcoin, working separate from all that, is safe. What do you say to that?
Oh, I think that's a very interesting way to look at it these days, because I do think there's a lot of truth in that. I think where it used to be the wacky, weird, what is that? Now I think, yeah, I feel like the world is flipped over, and you're right. I don't think these days there's a real valid reason for somebody not to get into Bitcoin. I think what's clouded the issue, though, is all the other currencies that have popped up.
Yes.
And I think, for me, Bitcoin is like the Apple, right? It's like, the biggest, the most stable, the most recognized. I think there are a lot of people who want to find the unicorn and dabble in these lesser known entities and potentially get burned, and that's a challenge. So but if somebody's thinking of doing it, do it with go in, get some Bitcoin, and you can. I like your strategy if you just nibble a little bit all the time. So that's a way to sort of keep your cost basis consistent, and that way, you don't feel the FOMO of like, oh my God, it went way up and I missed it, or it went way down and I missed the buying opportunity. So that, I think, I'm a big advocate of that strategy, but I also do what you guys don't do, which is I don't really look at it often. I'll buy some here and there and then just leave it. Just because it can be obsessive. You can find yourself literally like, oh my God, it went down X%. I'm freaking out. No, who cares? It's going to be up tomorrow. Like, you just have to have that. Because we have some friends that we kind of encouraged to buy, and one of them could not handle the volatility emotionally. It was like every day I'm getting texts, and it's like, just don't look at it.
It's so funny because when someone comes on the show, then we start to build a relationship, and especially with a lot of these beginners, they'll be texting me, and when it was dipping into the high 70s, they're like, oh my God, and like, what do you think? How do you feel? I'm like, I feel great.
Should I sell it? What should I do? It's like, no, you shouldn't sell it. You should buy more.
Yeah,
that's a buying opportunity.
I went, and I feel like a lot of new Bitcoiners go through a price mania phase, and I did, where I was checking the Clark Moody dashboard, and soon enough, I'll be flipping over to UTX Oracle multiple times a day. I mean, multiple times a day. And I actually have a spreadsheet that tracks my personal holdings with formulas to where all I have to do is update what the Clark Moody dashboard says the price is, and it'll tell me like, okay, how much have I made off my allowance? How much has my family made? How much is my retirement? Because my retirement is literally completely just the Bitcoin ETF. There's nothing else in there. So I can see as I'm going up and down, and it's a lot of fun for me. But eventually, with dollar cost averaging, I'm buying the same amount, the same time every week. I actually have it scheduled on Bitcoin Well. Man, I don't care if it's the top or the middle or the bottom, because I'm buying the top and the middle and the bottom. I don't care if the price today is the top or the middle, because I'll be buying it. It does not matter to me. I'm just trying to get more and more and more and more. It sounds like you're almost buying sporadically in chunks, though, more like kind of like a dry powder moment where maybe you notice it's dipped a little bit, you smash some in there, and then you let it chill. Is that correct?
I would say maybe like once a year I'll buy more, but it's not like I should do what you're doing, but that's quite disciplined. I haven't thought that far ahead, but yes. So I'm more opportunistic. The other thing I found about Bitcoin, which is an interesting thing too, is the cost for one Bitcoin for some people feels like, what? I can't even own one? That's ridiculous. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like if you have a penny stock and you own 1 million, what good is like it doesn't matter if it's one or how many you own. It's if it goes up 100%, your money goes up 100% whether you have 100 shares or 1 share. You know what I'm saying? But like people have a hard time mentally with that. That's what I've found. It's like, my God, it's so daunting. I'll never have one Bitcoin. Yes, it's like, yeah, you will. Just keep buying it and you'll get there at some point, or maybe not if it keeps going up.
I really like what you started to say about the risk of any investment, any stock, any equity, and maybe we could try a little exercise here, because you seem to be a very savvy investor when it comes to doing what we're all trying to do, which is take the cash that we earn and put it somewhere where it's going to buy more for us in the future. We're trying to preserve and, in the best case scenario, grow the buying power of our money. So as you compare putting your money to work in the stock market, maybe we could just pick a stock like Tesla, and the risks associated with some type of a public equity like that. Let's hear what you have to say about what are some of the potential risks. We're dealing with tariffs right now. You may have alluded earlier to like a change of control. Maybe there's a new CEO that comes in, but what are some of the other risks when it comes to owning a public equity or a stock that you're thinking about as you assess where you want to invest in that world?
Yes. Well, I can tell you from having worked in the advertising industry a very long time, there are corporations who you think are rock solid. And then we had our own when I was the CEO of J. Walter Thompson, New York, our global CEO, there was a big public lawsuit. It literally brought the company down. We were a $2 billion company, which doesn't exist anymore. So those are the kinds of things, it can be a Me Too. It can be a Me Too moment. It can be just a change in leadership. I mean, when Steve Jobs left, everyone was like, oh my God, now things didn't crash and burn. Everything's fine. But a lot of times it's emotional for people, right? The risks are not real risks, but they're emotional reactions. And the stock market is emotional. And so, that's where it's like politics come into play and all sorts of things that you don't even realize suddenly affect a stock price. And so it's definitely a challenge because you can't control all that stuff. So I think what I always try to do is just stick with the fundamentals. So say Elon Musk was hit by a cyber truck tomorrow. You know, there are people that would say, oh my God, the company's done. Like, but really? I mean, the guy is doing a gazillion things already. He's clearly not hands-on every day doing, you know, the operations of Tesla as it is, whether you think he is or not. It's just, he's not. Yes, he's obviously driving the big vision, the big decisions, but he's clearly got a team in place that's crushing the production and doing all the day-to-day work that needs to get done. So, but I think, you know, if that were to happen, I guarantee the stock would completely, it would just be like bottom out, right? And I think the scary thing is it's just what your timeline is. You know, I'm 57. I can sit on it for a while. If you're my mom, who's 85, and you're in pretty good health, and you want to, you know, live your last however many years well, you may not be as risk averse, or you may be more risk averse than me, you know, where I'm willing to, because you might not have the time to put in, you know, a 5-year slump that might kill you, you know. So like you just, so but I think if especially if you're young, you know, we have my nephew who is how old is my nephew? He's about 29. And he just had his first, he's a 1-year-old. And he's in the Army Reserves, and he's been deployed twice. He's in Chicago, he's been deployed twice. But he was racking up a little bit of savings, and he was asking us, what should I do? What should I do? So the first thing was get a Roth IRA, get one for you, Julie, his wife, their kid. And then we got him into some Bitcoin. And he had the same reaction though of, what? I can't afford to buy a Bitcoin. Yes, you can. You're buying a piece. You're not buying the whole thing. And we got him into Tesla, and we got him into NVIDIA, and we got him into a few others. And it's great because he's seen now, he's been doing it for a couple of years. He's seen firsthand like the benefits and how his portfolio is growing, and he's watching it and he's texting us. But he's another one, you gotta, you know, when they're that young, you have to also be like, it's okay if it's a bad week or even a bad year. Like, just, you can ride it out. You've got the time. So you don't have to stress out about, you know, the ups and downs as much. As long as, again, the fundamentals are good and you haven't changed your mind on that, then just put it in there and just let it go. But a lot of people, like I said, I feel like a lot of people have a hard time doing that because it's too emotional and they need to kind of be in control, which you can't.
Yeah. I mean, so it sounds like time preference is a major factor as you compare, you know, one person's assessment to another, which no question. But I also heard you say the fundamentals. So it's almost like you're describing this comparison of like, what are the true fundamentals of this business that I'm going to buy equity in that enable that company to create value over time? And do I believe in them or not? And do I believe they're going to be relevant in the future or not? And then subtract out all the risks. And then you kind of have a true read on your position on that specific company. So now, like, could you do the same thing with Bitcoin? Like, give us your assessment of Bitcoin. Same analysis. Like, what's Bitcoin's ability to create value over time minus the risks to arrive at your position?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit easier for people mentally to think about it when they're thinking about a company with a fixed product because they understand it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you understand an EV. With Bitcoin, a lot of people don't even understand what it is or how it's mined or how it generates cash flow. So it's a lot harder, I think, to try to explain not what it is per se, but how it actually grows and creates value over time. So I would love, if you guys have a simple sentence or two, I would love that because that would help me. But that I think is something people struggle with. Whereas you're investing in, Hershey's or, a tech stock or whatever, any stock. I'm just making that up, but any stock, you understand it. It's like, okay, people like chocolate. People are never going to not like chocolate. Great. I'm going to buy, whatever. You can wrap your head around the opportunity and the growth opportunity a little bit more. Or conversely, you can think about it as, the dating apps that Bumble, which was really on a high, people don't love the apps anymore. You're looking at the big macro trends of consumers, and I have 2 kids who are using them and hate them. Maybe that's not going to be doing as well in the future, and you can kind of use your own judgment on that. But I think it's much harder to explain Bitcoin to someone.
Yeah. And we started a whole dang show to try to figure that out because everyone comes at Bitcoin differently. And, some people come at it from the vantage point of monopoly money. Some people come at it from the vantage point of being an asset. Some people say it's money. Some people say it's the truth. I mean, there's so many different ways to approach it. So when you first came across Bitcoin, it was 5 to 6 years ago after you left your corporate job and were trying to determine how to diversify your portfolio to create more security for yourself? Or was it to create more gains for yourself to maybe offset the turbulence of being an entrepreneur?
Probably a little
Why
both.
did you decide? A little bit of both.
Yeah. I think actually that's an interesting point. I think I'm a little more like I said, mindset wise, because so much of this is a mindset related thing. I think when you're an entrepreneur, you are more willing to try things out or test things out, or because you're kind of like in that world and you're dealing with, other innovators or tech products or VCs, or, you're just you feel a little more comfortable being in an uncomfortable situation. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think when you're in the corporate world, it's a little bit more like, you're going to just, you're sort of, you're drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit of like,
like, let me get my paycheck. Let me put my percentage into retirement to get the match. And I'm just going to stay in my lane, do as I am expected, and try to build myself up a retirement over 4 to 5 decades of work by putting my faith in the stock market, pretty much. But as an entrepreneur, you're thinking, you know what? I might try this out.
Exactly. Because again, the reward is so huge. I do think I would never tell somebody, okay, you're a little unusual. You put 100% of your retirement in there. I wouldn't advise somebody to do that because again, I know that intellectually I know all the benefits, but it just feels like any financial advisor would tell you diversification is probably a good idea in anything, right? And to be honest, one of the things that we've done recently is real estate, and that's been a fantastic investment. We've always done incredibly well with real estate. The benefit of real estate is you also get to enjoy it, so you're investing and enjoying and creating a lifestyle which you don't get when you're just putting money in the stock market or in Bitcoin.
Let's bite down on the neck of that real quick, like a cheetah after an antelope. I did put the entirety of my retirement into Bitcoin. And actually, after talking to you, Lynn, I'm like, man, you know what? I I need to flip it. I need to flip that mode, right? Because it kind of feels like what I need to do is go create a Roth IRA. And for our satillionaires, my understanding is that's the one where you pay the tax first, so that then you basically skirt around the capital gains that would otherwise come your way. So if my
100%.
if my IRA goes to the moon, because it is literally 100% the Bitcoin ETF, then when I pull that out later as an old man, my taxes are also going to go to the moon.
Yeah.
But okay, so what I need to do is I need to dump the IRA into a Roth IRA. I'll take some kind of nasty tax hit right now, and it's going to hurt and it's going to make me feel bad. But whatever is remaining after I've paid my friendly local nation state for the privilege of making a good choice with my own money that I worked for, then I go fully into the Bitcoin ETF, and then that goes to the moon. Well, when I go to live off of that later, no taxes. Is this correct?
So yeah, you won't get taxed on the gain. Now there are income limits to the Roth IRA. You have to make below a certain threshold. So I think I'm looking at it right here. It's if you're single, it's under 150,000. If you're married couple, it's under 236,000. Don't know why.
So that's so now here's my question, Lynn. All that is complicado, right? And we got to say, okay, well, how much is our nation state going to let us put into such and so an account, tax, not tax, limits, all this stuff, right? And then on the other hand, you just have Bitcoin, real
Right.
Bitcoin, not in an ETF, not on an exchange, but in a wallet you control, in an account you control, so to speak, right? It's the bomb.com. It is online. It's always being available 24/7 globally. The appreciation rate since it first started is a 200 million percent, right? So when I'm looking at what to do with my money, I have grown up in a world of diversification. Hey, hedge your bets, right? Come get you a little stock, come get you a little bond, come get you a little international stock. Maybe you get some mutual funds, go get you a house. Maybe you want to, I don't even know what, right? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, how about no? How about no? How about I want the best and I just want as much of the best as I can get? What do you say to someone like me who only wants the absolute best and thinks that diversification is just basically watering down what could be for you?
I mean, I agree to some extent because, of course, nobody wants the worst returning stuff. You all want the one that's going to do the highest growth and the highest return. But having said that, like when I say diversification, most people would say the stuff that we're in is still pretty risky. Like we don't have any mutual funds. Like we don't have any of those, buy the S&P 500 and let it sit kind of things. So, but that's why I feel like at least we've got enough different things that if one did go completely, crapped out, then I'm not going to freak out. Now, I mean, I love your boldness and I think you do you. And I think, look, I think for a lot of people that are just starting, that would be a very scary thing to do, what you're doing. But you're setting the goal. Like, and if that works, you're going to be here in 10 years saying like, I told y'all you should have done it. And that's cool too. But like I said, for me, it's also lifestyle. Like we just bought an apartment in Bologna because I can, and I want my money to work there, giving me an amazing Italian lifestyle experience. Do you know what I mean? Which
So let me ask you this. Because we do feel like a lot of our beginners are going to approach Bitcoin in the beginning as a small percentage of their investment portfolio. Our satillionaires who are still trying to figure out whether to stack their first sats, they're not trying to figure out whether Bitcoin is freedom. They're not trying to figure out whether Bitcoin is going to reshape the nation state into something completely different or remake the world entirely. They're just trying, and they're not even going to come at it as, man, this is a better money. This is a better money than paper, metal, glass, shells, stones. It's just literally a better money. They're going to come at it as, can I make some money with this? If I buy some Bitcoin, can I sell it later to make some more money? Because they're still in the US dollar. They wake up the US dollar. They eat lunch the US dollar. They watch Netflix at night, the US dollar. They go to sleep and they dream the US dollar. They have no concept of buying Bitcoin to have it as a better form of money. They're going to buy it here and they're hoping to do like a stock and sell it up here for later, right? So
yeah,
investment advice might be a great first step for our satillionaires. My question to you, Lynn, when you think about your investment portfolio, and that includes stocks, that includes real estate, that includes Bitcoin, it might even include art at your level, BT Dubs. And by the way, your husband sounds like the man buying art for Bitcoin and saying, bro, I'll make you whole if it goes down. I'll take it back in a year if you don't want it. My poor guy's trying as hard as he can to help someone else out, and they don't want that help. But when you think about the entirety of your investment portfolio, would you be willing to break it down into percentages? 40% is in Wall Street, 10% is in art, 15% is in Bitcoin, 35% is in real. What does that mix up look like for you?
Oh boy, I would say it's probably 25% real estate. Maybe it's 50% stocks. We've got a few, let's think about that, like not mutual funds, but more ETFs. And then that might be another 10. And Bitcoin's probably only like 5%, and art might be 5%. I think again, like I'm looking at it more as creating a lifestyle, which that's important at my age. But I think the problem why people go into this mentality of thinking of it in context of the US dollar is because you really can't buy things outright with Bitcoin. I think that's the inflection point when it will change and people will be leaning on it more as a core currency and part of their portfolio, because now you do have to convert it into dollars to actually use it. And for most places, I mean, I don't know, every now and then you'll read about some retailer that's willing to accept Bitcoin or some, but they're few and far between.
Yeah. That is a major hang up for people to get started is, well, what can I buy with? And I'm like, how about, don't worry about that for now, get you some and later convert it to whatever currency you want and then buy an infinite amount of what you would have bought when you first bought it. Like, relax. But this lifestyle word that you keep using, what do you mean by that? And why is it important for someone who's 57 to have one of them?
Well, what I mean is now that I'm an entrepreneur and I'm not tied to the corporate world, I can live wherever I want. And when you really start thinking about that, it is incredibly liberating, because I'm not just talking about I can move back to New York or Chicago. I'm talking about anywhere in the world, and couple that with the fact that I had cancer a couple years ago. And that makes you really rethink your priorities and really want to focus on the things that you want to do. I'm much less tolerant of wasting my time doing crap I don't want to do. And so getting, buying an apartment in Bologna is a great example of, I did it because I want to spend time eating Italian pasta and drinking Italian wine in Piazza Maggiore in Bologna and doing my Instagram posts while I'm doing that because, but that's the reality. Like, I can work from anywhere. So that's what I mean. Like, you can structure your life the way you want to structure your life. And a lot of the, people get hung up on these like conventions of, oh God, I couldn't leave the US. Why not? Or, oh, all my friends are in Chicago. I can't move away. Why are you going to put up with the winter there? You can move away. You know what I mean? Like, invite your friends to come visit you. It's so, but not everybody, has that appetite to change things, I guess. Some people take a lot of comfort in the consistency and I'm not one of those people. I like to have things. I like to explore and do new things.
So, as a cancer survivor and an inexperienced investor, what advice can you give to our satillionaires to prioritize their life correctly and also to start wrapping their head around the first steps of investing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't wait, because a lot of times people think I'll get to that when X happens. Or like, oh, I'll start doing a Roth IRA when I get married or when I have a kid or when, and I think that the sooner you get on top of this stuff and dabble and start, and I'm going to use my nephew again as a great example because he was very skeptical and now he's doing it and he's in it and he's seeing the returns, and it's been a few years and he's become a huge advocate for investing, for Bitcoin, for all the stuff that we're talking about. So the sooner you get into it, the more you're going to see the returns and you're going to set yourself up for the life you want to have down the road. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself being, 55 years old, potentially being, downgraded in your job because you're aged out and not having a huge retirement portfolio. And that's the worst possible position to be in, where you're not really marketable so much anymore and you don't have the means. You need to get a job. I mean, and I know a lot of people in advertising that ended up in this position, and it's awful. So you don't have to be in that position. Start now. And we tell our kids, like, how much extra money do you have from your jobs a month? $100? Great. Invest that $100. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. It's the compounding that makes it insane.
Well, let's recap the conversation with Lynn today. Lynn used to work in the world of advertising in that corporate space. She decided to become an entrepreneur. And when you made the leap from corporate to entrepreneur, there was a reevaluation of the finance moment. And you found Bitcoin at that time 5 to 6 years ago and started, investing in it just a little bit. Do you have $100 extra this month? Do you have 50 extra bucks this week? You had some cancer there. It reprioritized your life. Now you got that apartment in Bologna, straight ripping on the north of Italy, and creating this life for yourself that you can enjoy because you didn't wait. you got the Roth IRA, you contributed to it when you could before your income level went above a threshold. You're in Tesla. You got some real estate. So it sounded like your message to our Satillionaires today was go ahead and get started, right? Something.
Yeah.
Invest somewhere, something, some amount, because over time you'll learn more, you'll get better, things will work out. And we kind of feel the same way on Sat Chats, but it's focused on Bitcoin, where it's like, hey, just stack some sats this week, stack some sats next week, or maybe stack some sats this month, stack some sats next month. Lynn's dry powdering once per year. I couldn't do that, man. I got to buy it every week because I started to get irritable. I'm like, oh, it's been a week since I bought some Bitcoin. I need to buy some Bitcoin. I buy a little bit. I'm like, oh, I feel so much better. But what we want to do here today, Lynn, is maybe stack some sats with you right now. But before we do, we are going to taste a little bit of Ithaca hummus. I'm going to be your taste buds here in the studio. And the flavor that you chose, what was it, Chris?
Well, Lynn asked for lemon garlic or everything bagel, leaving the choice up to us between those two, and we chose lemon garlic.
Lemon garlic. Okay, So have you ever heard about Ithaca hummus before, Lynn?
Oh, I love it. I've had it. Yeah, it's delicious.
Aha.
So
what's where do you go to get it where you are? Because where is
Palm
Florida?
Springs, right?
Palm
Springs.
Actually, here, to be fair, where I've had it, there was a grocery store in Massachusetts when I lived there that stocked it, and that's where we used to get it. I don't think they have it out here.
Is Palm Springs Florida or California?
California.
No, California.
Okay. So
I feel like I haven't seen it in the grocery store here.
Where would it be in Palm Springs?
Well, Whole Foods or Sprouts would have it. We're about to launch in Target and Kroger, which might bring it a little closer to you. But
so
anyway,
Albertsons
I'm glad
is part of Kroger, so maybe that's how I'll get it.
Awesome.
Well, we're gonna crunch on some of this lemon garlic.
All right,
here we go.
That never fails. That's a good batch too.
And why do you always say that? You always use the word batch. What are you talking about?
Because we make it in batches. And because we use lots of fresh ingredients like fresh lemons and fresh garlic, it can vary from batch to batch. That's what happens when you use natural, real ingredients.
Wow.
Which could be perceived as a negative, right? Like, oh my God, it could be a bad batch. But the way I look at it is every time I taste Ithaca hummus, any of the flavors, I might be tasting the best batch ever. I just don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. So, Lynn, we are going to make you an offer here on the show.
All right, Lynn. So here at Sat Chats, we believe in value for value. You showed up today. You gave us over an hour of your time. And so we want to reciprocate that with a small token of our appreciation. So we're going to give you the choice between $50, which I've got back here, and Stuart will hold that up so you can see it, or $50 in Bitcoin, which we would like to invest for you on your behalf. And if you look at the Clark Moody Bitcoin dashboard behind me, we can see that the exchange rate for one Bitcoin is $90,870, which translates to 1,100 sats per dollar. I could do that math in my head, but just so I don't embarrass myself, I'm not going to. And I'm going to say 1,100 times 50 is 55,000 sats, or $50. Which one would you like as a gift from Sat Chats?
No brainer, the Bitcoin.
No brainer, the Bitcoin. Yes. No brainer. Not even needed to think about it. That is thebomb.com. So you are number 57 you bring our scoreboard to 52 guests who have chosen the Sats and 5 who need a little bit more time. This is the part of the show where we ask you Satillionaires for your value in exchange for ours. What do we value most? YouTube subscriptions. Smash the subscribe button on Lynn's episode if you liked what you heard today. In exchange, we will put you in our Million Sats giveaway. We will unlock a live show Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Both of those contingent upon reaching 999 plus 1 subscribers. We're on the road to number 99. Kristen helped me train for that showdown. And if you'd like to support us directly, our on-chain Bitcoin and Lightning addresses are in the show notes. If you already know what I'm talking about and want to zap us some sats, it's satchats@getalby.com. Remember, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views and their apartments in Italy are their own. Thanks so much for your time, Satillionaires. We'll see you tomorrow.